Welcome to Getting Ghosted. This is an Intuitive Soul Collective podcast, and I'm your host, Allie Horner. Welcome back. I am excited to get started on this episode. So today, I got this idea, and it actually came from one of my spirit buddies, and he just kind of popped it in, and he said, what a lot of people are wondering about are like, what are some of the signs that you might be a medium? And I thought, well, hot diggity dog damn, that is something that I love to talk about and that I love to teach about. So let's talk about it. So I know for me what my experience was, and I've also talked to countless people about what their experiences were when they started to open up to their mediumship. I've also done tons of readings over the last 10 years in which people's guides have come through and pointed out to the person, hey, like, you're not crazy, you're not cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, you're not loco, you are a medium. So you're not imagining what you're experiencing, and what you're experiencing is not exactly uncommon, though there can be kind of unique experiences within the mediumship world. There tends to be a lot of things in common. So let's talk about them. Now, one of the main things that I see come through in readings a lot, and that my guides talk about a lot with me, is a lot of people feel a presence. They just shrink away from it, or they get scared by it because they don't understand what it is. And it's not scary and it's not bad, but it scares them regardless, usually because of a lot of our movies and media and books and campfire stories about ghosts and haunted houses and all that type of stuff. And so it tends to really freak people out, especially when they're kids that they don't understand, and they're like, well, I only know what I can see in front of me. And so the second I see something that seems a little bit different than what I'm used to, or it feels different than what I'm used to, I'm going to freak out. Right. So, and that's how a lot of people's brains are kind of wired. And that's also what they're taught by, people who don't intend to harm them or scare them. And sometimes they do, but usually it's people who are well-meaning adults, and also have some ingrained beliefs that are a little bit funky about working with the other side, or ghosts and spirits and things like that. So but one of the big things that they're pointing out is clairsentience, and that's when you're able to feel that spirit energy. And so we use all 5 of our senses. It's just which one are we most dominant in. So clairsentience is a big one. And then a lot of people have some degree of clairvoyance. They just don't realize what it is. And so they think they just have an overactive imagination and that their brain just works in really cool ways. But one of the ways that clairvoyance shows up when it's specifically when you're seeing a spirit is that you're not always going to see the spirit in front of you. You might see an image of them in almost like what is kind of like a third eye way, where for me, for example, and for many people, we see them almost up against like a white background or a white screen. And we'll see them, sometimes I'll see them sitting in a chair waving at me in my head. And it's really, really funny when it happens. It usually cracks me up because they're so playful and they want to make this fun for us. And usually if you can see them to that degree, you're going to be able to feel their peace and their love and their playfulness, or just kind of like a feeling of a shift in the energy. Now, again, that shift in energy can freak people out if they're not used to it, but it doesn't mean it's bad. It just means they're not used to it yet. And again, a lot of us are scared of what we don't understand. So, or don't know yet. And it's like, hey, I got to sort this out and feel what it feels like. And then I go, oh, okay, that's safe. It was just unfamiliar for a while, right? Or it just looks different than I am used to having things look. And so yeah. But another thing that was really surprising for me that I had no idea what was going on, and I figured it out much, much later, and I wish I'd had someone to ask or talk to about this, is for a long time when I was younger, I would actually get these visions and these images in my mind, and I'd be like, why the hell am I seeing these things popping in my head with this man who looks this way, and he's like going about these different daily things in his life, and yada yada, and then I'm seeing a car accident. I had no idea that I was seeing memories that he was showing me, or that I was picking up from when he was alive, and was also seeing how he passed. this is how I got acquainted actually with my mediumship. And I, again, tried to shut it back down because I didn't understand what was going on and I had no one to explain this to me. I did not even know that there were books about it. I didn't know that I could ask for them or that I could take courses. I was in high school. My family was not into this type of stuff. They did not talk about it. There was no one I felt comfortable asking without looking like I was Looney Tunes, right? So, and I didn't even know how to articulate what was going on. I thought I had an overactive imagination. So I didn't understand I was seeing someone from the other side of my mind. Okay. It didn't look scary. It was like I was just seeing memories from his lifetime. That is a common thing with mediums. We will see or pick up on things about the person and information about the person from when they're alive, but how that often comes through with clairvoyance is it almost looks like little movie clips or images. And if you don't understand what's going on and you don't know yet that you're a medium, it can be like, why the hell am I seeing this in my brain? What is that? And you'll just think, oh, I just have an overactive imagination. No, you don't. Though an overactive imagination, quote unquote, is the gateway to a lot of this stuff working and coming up, because a lot of people also get intuitive visions where they see things before they happen and all that type of stuff. And when you're first starting out, it can be a lot to sort out what's what, who it's coming from, why it's there. It can be a lot. So that's when it's always good to get a spiritual support group to practice with and talk with. It's when it's good to take courses, read books, and get a mentor who you can run things by, who can help you sort it all out, okay? Please do not lone wolf it like I did. Like I said, I didn't know any better. And then when I went through my reawakening, a while back, it was, again, very disorienting because I didn't know who to talk to. So luckily, my guides were there to teach me and train me. Now, again, like people will see flashes of images or visions, and these can be memories, symbols from the person's life, things that were important to them, like a specific car or an activity that they did, something they wore, like a watch, or a way that they dressed. And something else that'll happen is that you can even have senses overlap and combine and heighten. So like maybe you see an image, I'm seeing an image of one of my grandparents combing his hair back, but I'm just seeing that if you were standing really up close by the back of his head, and I'm seeing him combing his hair and I can smell the hair gel. So there's like a sensory ability with it. And I'm also able to hear the comb going through his hair, but it feels like it's like a tingle inside of my ear. So it's not like sound from out here. It's sound that's coming in telepathically, in a sense, from that memory and from that person, which brings me to the next part. Some mediums do hear. Not all of them can hear. It's actually not super common to find a medium who can hear voices outside of their head. Many mediums don't want it and aren't open to it, and that's totally okay, because a lot of times people know that if you're going to work with being able to hear clairaudiently out from outside your head, you need to have fantastic flippin' boundaries and know how to turn that on and off. And a lot of people get very overwhelmed very quickly when they're hearing things that they can't see. And when they're walking around in the world and they hear things and they're going, okay, can we not? I need to like focus on the conversation I'm having with the actual person in front of me and not look like I belong on a grippy sock vacation. So it's definitely one of those gifts that people think they want. I just wish I could hear my guides. I just wish I could. Nah, I kind of don't. You kind of don't. And so also I will say, if you struggle with boundaries in other parts of your life, like telling people no, if you struggle with knowing how to turn on and off your heightened states of emotion or awareness or intuition, picking up on people, thinking about people, if you struggle with boundaries, as in letting other people walk all over your boundaries, you're going to struggle if you turn on that amount of clairvoyance, because you already struggle with boundaries in other parts. You'll struggle with it there. Okay. So I don't recommend it for people who have a lot of boundary stuff. And same with like allowing too much seeing. So some people do see them sitting in front of them. Now that's not all spirits are able to pull themselves through to that degree. I have a couple that come through where it's like front and center. They're completely present. I can smell their cologne, see them. They're standing right here. They're chit-chatting. Other ones, again, I'll see more memories. I'll see them up in like their heavenly or afterlife experience. I might see more of an energy form. They might show me photographs of how they looked, or things that were important to them, but I'm not seeing them as much in the room, crisp and clear. Again, now also, that's not an experience I personally want. I have told my team in the other side, hey, I'm happy to channel for you when I am in session and I'm open for business and I've said it's okay and I'm in that reading, or I'm talking to someone and I'm giving you the go ahead in everyday circumstance, which isn't all the time. But I don't want to be out at the grocery store and start talking to one of you guys thinking you're standing in front of me, but no one else can see you and I look crazy. I don't want to do that. So, and I know a lot of humans don't either, because they're like, that would be really overwhelming to wake up and see someone standing at the foot of my bed. Think like Alison Dubois style, like from the show Medium. We don't all want to have that experience. And so you're going to need to learn really early on how to differentiate what you're seeing and what you're not seeing, why you're not seeing things a certain way. And also a lot of people have fears that hold them back. And we talk about that a lot on this podcast and in my courses and Patreon groups as well. But fear is a really common thing with opening mediumship abilities. It is not unusual to be afraid or a little worried about getting overwhelmed. So definitely, again, find mentor and groups to help you with that type of stuff and learn. So if you're not seeing them in front of you, it doesn't mean you're not a medium. If you're not hearing them from outside your head like a voice, it doesn't mean you're not a medium. They're probably just using other vehicles. And again, a lot of clairaudience is more like in the brain, where it's like I can get a beat on someone's voice and what they sounded like in that moment, but it's not coming from outside of my head. It's more like they've got a direct line, like boop, plugged in. And when I'm done with the session, they go, right? And same thing with the seeing and having them around. I don't like them being like, showing up like I walk around the corner and they're right there. I'm not cool with that. And so I don't have those experiences. When I'm with my kid, I'm with my kid. I don't want to be channeling. I don't want to be having spirits come through. And I've told them the only time they can is if there's a life and death situation or something really important and I need to stop and tune in for a minute. Okay. So like, I'm usually like, hey, if I'm with my friends, if I'm with my kiddo, I have other things I want to be focused on. I want to be present and living my life. So I have pretty strong boundaries and I'm pretty unapologetic about them too. And even with that, as a medium, I'm not on call for people. Like, that's not how I work. That is not how any mediums should be working. You will absolutely burn yourself out big time if you're doing that. So that said, you can also, a lot of mediums, they have the experience of, and this is like kind of interesting, but they'll have the experience of picking up on someone and kind of getting inklings about their presence or hearing from them in a dream or, during another channeling session or when they're tuning in meditation. The other side or that one being or person may introduce themselves early. That certainly does happen to me when I'm saying, hey, my door's open. What do I need to bring through? What do I need to hear? My guides are great gatekeepers and I ask them to do that and have them do that. So they know like there's nothing ever that's going to come through that's, going to upset me. But often I will have someone's loved one come to me and say, hey, you're going to meet my friend or you're going to meet my daughter soon or you're going to channel so-and-so for me very, very, very soon here. I don't always, I can't always control the meeting of that person if they're going to ask for that reading right away. Often when that person comes in, I usually forget that they've come in, but I do pick up certain names ahead of time. So that's not uncommon with mediumship, is hearing names or getting little inklings and being like, why am I thinking about this? Or what is this popping in my head? But not knowing who or what it connects to just yet. That's okay. That happens. It's not that uncommon. Again, if you don't want to have that experience, make it clear to the other side they can't come through unless you're open to channel, okay? And turn your psychic senses off, etc. Now, there might be other times where they kind of jump over that boundary, and I've made it clear to them only if it's absolutely necessary. And you can do the same thing with them. You're allowed to have that boundary, okay? Now, so again, like I often won't make the connection of, wait, who is this? Like, oh yeah, Jesse. So actually like there was one guy on the other side who came through and he said, you're going to meet my friend soon. And I remember exactly like what he looked like, backwards hat, brown hair, what he was wearing, all this stuff. And he gave me the name Jesse. And it was very clear, excuse me guys. it was very clear he had overdosed, and he was pretty young. And I didn't understand right away who he was connected to. And he said, "You're going to meet my friend soon." And within the next like 6 months-ish, I want to say, I did end up meeting his friend, and she ended up becoming one of my good friends. And a couple months after I met her, we were out having drinks, and she said, "So you're a medium, right?" And I was like, "Yeah, yeah." And I don't always tell people that right away, because I just like want to make normal friends, and I don't want, I'll get into reasons why later, but I don't always want it to be the focus of the conversation. Like, I'm usually just trying to get to know people, and enjoy hanging with them and not have the focus go on that. So, but she said, "So you're a medium, right?" And she was like, "Do you think you could connect to my friend who passed? His name is Jesse." And immediately he showed right up, and I went, "Oh my gosh. He came through a while back, and he said I was going to meet you. I just didn't put it together that you were that person until you just asked and he came in." And, he waited because he knew she was going to ask it. But it was super, super cool. Just seeing like that they come in and introduce themselves ahead of time. And they're also helping some of us connect on earth with other friends and practitioners or people that we need to talk to get the next steps on our path, or we need to give them some sort of information for their path, or become lifelong buddies with, or bridesmaids to, or whatever. And so that can definitely happen. So for some of you, you may, if you're getting random names in your head and things like that, that can be mediumship, and it can be a signal from someone on the other side who is trying to contact you. So now another thing that happens a lot to people who don't realize that they're mediums is they might hear like really random stuff, like they might hear songs in their head, or they might hear movie lines in their head. Now, some of this can be a little pattern recognition-y and like OCD-ish type of stuff. So I don't want to get mixed in with that. OCD is very different from what I'm talking about. So I'm just going to say that right now. It's a very different feeling. It comes from a different place in the brain. It's not the same. Okay. But a lot of times people who are mediums, who are more clairaudient, will get actually songs in their minds over and over, but it'll only be one specific line in the song, and that line might repeat. And it's almost like it comes in as an answer to a question. Or what happens for me is I will have guides or loved ones bring through certain songs that are meaningful to the person I'm reading for, or they're meaningful to the person that's on the other side. Like, that's the type of music that they liked. I had someone come through and bring me tons of 90s music and their friend was like, "Oh yeah, they loved that type of stuff." For example, like when I hear people from a certain generation, or I'm bringing through someone from a certain generation, the music they might give me is completely different. It's like Frank Sinatra and Dino and some Bing Crosby and Rosemary Clooney. And like, it's going to be completely different, for example, and that's just an example from my great grandparents. But it's going to be that type of stuff versus someone who maybe was alive and their favorite musical time period that they played at home, in front of their daughter that I'm doing the reading for, was like, 70s, like classic rock. And so then the daughter will be like, "Yep, that was them. They love that type of music." So now when you're first becoming a medium and you don't know that you are one yet, you might be picking up stuff because it's from that being, and it's something that was special to them from their lifetime. And so if you have a lot of random songs, it's not always a spirit, but it can be a spirit. Okay. Your job is to let it come in. Don't try to interpret it. Don't try to figure it out right away. Okay. Now, another thing that happens to people, and this is kind of a fun and interesting one, is spirit smells. They will get smells like colognes, perfumes, even things like buttered toast or bacon. And it'll be the main thing is like, it's going to be a split second, really strong smell, almost like you walked through that spirit's energy. And like so say like your boyfriend's wearing cologne, or your girlfriend's wearing a really great perfume or whatever, and you walk right through it, like walk right by them, and it's like it just like smacks you in the face, that type of feeling. That happens to people, but with spirit smell. And it might even be more unique things. So like, for example, like you can get certain smells that have to do with something the person loved, like a hobby. So if they love to fix cars, you might smell oil or gasoline for a split second. If My friend on the other side was talking about how he smoked a lot of weed when he was alive, and he makes jokes about smoking the reefer, as he says. And so sometimes I'll get a really strong whiff of weed or stinky socks or something like that. And I'm like, oh my God, dude. Like, and it's a split second, but it's unmistakable. And it doesn't come from always outside of your face the way another smell would. It's more like it's like in your nose and it's emanating from inside of your nose. It's hard to describe, but that's often something that can happen. And people are always like, what the hell is that? Where did that come from? Now, if it lingers for a long time, or if you have it's something else logical, like you have a window open or you have something that smells like that in your home, or, whatever it is, probably not that. But that's a big one. Another thing is getting spirit chills and spirit tingles, little cold things, like little peck on the cheek type of things. So I have a great aunt who likes to give me a little kiss on the cheek, and it'll be like a little cold spot all of a sudden. The other thing that you can have is like they touch on the shoulder, or some people get signals for yes and no from they'll feel a cold chill here versus a cold chill here, and it's like on their left shoulder it's yes, and on their right shoulder it's a no. Sometimes they work with spirit that way. Some people will get tingles or chills along like different parts of their skull. Or, on their head. Some people feel a heartwarming feeling, and it feels like their heart is bursting all of a sudden when a loved one is around, or when someone from the other side is around. That's not uncommon, you guys, just so you know. That's not weird at all. And it often brings up a feeling of like unconditional love and feeling so dear to someone, even if you don't know them. It's very, very interesting. But that's a big one too, is a lot of that heart chakra, and that warm, cuddly kind of unconditional love makes you want to cry type of feeling. Now, something else that can happen with the clairsentient ability is feeling little things, and they tend to bring with them like a note of peacefulness or love, so they don't tend to be as scary for people. But so, for example, like sometimes I will have someone's dog, if they want a reading with their dog, or if I have someone's dog coming through, their dog will come up and I'll feel like a cold, wet nose on my hand. And so little things like that, or I'll have the sensation of brushing fur and I'll feel a tingliness on my hand, even if I'm not actually physically touching anything. And so sometimes you might have things like that. Some people feel someone holding their hand and it can feel kind of dense and like it's there, but some people just have the feeling of an energy being there, and almost like something gently, like a little bit of an energy ball, like kind of closing around their hand, but it doesn't feel bad or scary. Again, it's like more like I'm hearing Hootie and the Blowfish, hold my hand. I don't even know if I'm saying that right, but that's what I'm hearing. And it'll be like they're kind of like holding that hand. Sometimes it'll be something that was specific to the person. So if they had a specific injury or an ailment or an illness or something like that, sometimes you might get a sense of what it would have been like in their body when they were alive, so for a split second, not in terms of pain, but a sensation. That's another thing with clairsentience, is sometimes if you don't know how it works, it can be a little upsetting at first, but sometimes what people pick up from the other side that scares them, that actually really isn't scary. It's just them trying to show you something about their life, is that sometimes you can feel a sensation in your body that corresponds to how they passed. And that's not a bad spirit. That's not a negative entity or negative energy. It's just them trying to give you a very strong clue so that you know it's them. Like, so that you know, hey, this is a spirit showing me how they passed or talking to me. This has to do with memory. It's not them trying to hurt me or make me feel bad. So you're not going to feel the physical pain they were in, just to be clear. So for example, like when I've picked up on someone who had cancer, for example, and it spread all over, I will see like an energy map of it in my brain sometimes. And I'll often feel, ooh, this feels like it started, I'll feel like a pressure in my right breast, and then I'll feel pressure spreading throughout my body. I might feel a feeling of nausea for a split second, or feeling in my stomach, and it'll become very clear to me, especially I'll get like, it's more like feelings of pressure, not pain, all of a sudden in different parts of my body. And it's showing me, hey, this person had breast cancer and it metastasized. And then I might get like the breast cancer pink ribbon, right? So you might also have, for example, I had someone who died from smoke inhalation. And so all of a sudden my lungs felt like they had a lot of pressure in them. Again, that wasn't scary. It was just an indicator of, hey, this person had, this is how they passed. They're trying to make it clear so that I know who they are, and so that the person receiving the reading knows who they are too, and can say, yes, that's definitely them. Same thing with heart attack. They might show me like the chest, and they might show me a line down it, especially if they had surgery or a bypass or something. And then I will feel a pressure like in my heart, but it doesn't hurt. It just feels like a pressure all of a sudden. And again, it's clairsentient, so it's not going to actually hurt you or actually cause any health problems for you. But I'll pick up on that. And so it's something where it's kind of like you can have that feeling. And again, if you're not used to it, you might get scared by it, but it's not there to scare you. It's there as almost like they're trying to give you information about themselves. You can also say to them, hey, I'm not comfortable hearing about how you passed. That's triggering for me. Please don't do that. Or I'm not comfortable, feeling those certain things. Please don't pass that to me. In terms of the memories that are getting sent, etc. They can't control everything, but they can pull back their energy a little bit to help you out. Now, something else is that is very common for budding mediums that I think they don't understand. And it's, again, it doesn't need to be scary, but you do need to understand it and be educated on it, is that it's really common for people who are mediums to first think that they're empaths. Now, we're all empaths. Everyone's an empath. It's not a special thing. It's not a different thing, but it is a really, it's almost like you have a heightened ability that everyone else has. They're just shutting it down all the time. And that's because it's very uncomfortable to be in the physical when you are a multidimensional being, which we all are. So, but what this means is sometimes empaths think they're only picking up on other people's feelings and emotions or energy in a room, as in like the atmosphere in this room is kind of wonky. I hate to tell you guys, but you're picking up on spirit energy a lot. Now, I want to make this really clear because I think that this is a huge, huge misunderstanding and misconception with spirit. My guides have taught me so much about this because part of my deal here on earth is I'm here to help people with these types of things and help with the consciousness shift, which means clearing up some misconceptions. When you are picking up on someone from the other side, and this happened to me when I was reawakening my gifts and I had no idea what was going on and I had no one to ask, so I had to figure this out the hard way with my guides' help. I started picking up on someone who had passed who was very well known. I could feel them standing next to me, but I would look and they weren't there, but I swore they were there. I knew who it was. I felt a brotherly love type of energy from them, like they were watching over me, almost a fondness. It was very weird because I had never met them when they were alive, nor was I any sort of super fan of theirs. And I was not like super aware of their career. I just knew who they were when they were alive. And so they absolutely were like coming through, and I went and had that confirmed by a medium. And she was like, you're not crazy, you're a medium. And I went, okay. So now the store is opening. And so, but what happened for a while was I would feel them there, I would sense them there, and I didn't know what to do because I was crying and crying and crying. Like I felt like I was losing my marbles, right? And I remember sitting in my pantry at my old home, and I was sitting there just sobbing, and I was going, I don't understand why I'm feeling so much grief over someone that I never knew who passed years ago. I mean, I wasn't a big fan of their career. There's no logical reason like why I would be so upset about this. And I didn't understand, but I had felt like they were like a brother to me. I just had never known them. Like I felt like, oh, of course we're connected. But it was the most bizarre feeling. Okay. The most bizarre feeling. It took me, I cannot tell you how much time to figure out that the reason I was picking up all of this tremendous amount of grief and was grieving them almost as though I had known them personally that whole entire first month of my awakening was that I was picking up on all of the grief from all of the humans who knew about them, who were still grieving them. And who had projected all of these human emotions of grief. It wasn't the spirit themselves. The spirit themselves is not grieving. They're not angry. They don't carry those emotions. Humans pick up on the human emotions of all the people and how they felt about them when they were alive and how they felt about them upon their passing and everything. So I was having all of these mixed emotions because suddenly it was like I was wading through this giant puddle of energy and emotions from human beings that were still alive that had been projected at this spirit or at this person before and after they passed. And now that's not the spirit's fault. They're just existing in pure unconditional love, but I didn't know. I didn't know any better at that time. So I was like, why do I have all this grief over someone I don't know? I felt like I was going to lose it. And then once I figured out what was going on, I went, oh, now I know how to understand why I'm feeling certain things in a reading. And I started to listen to my guides, and I learned you need to connect up with the spirit versus in through the human energy of the people that you're reading for or the people that knew them when they were alive, because those people may have very specific memories and feelings about that person who passed, and you don't want to get caught in their feelings and have that muddy the reading from the person on the other side, because the person on the other side doesn't carry any of that with them. Okay, so that is something though that happens a lot with the clairsentient ability, is a lot of emotion. And we'll go, I feel like I'm nuts. I don't know why I'm feeling all these things. I don't know why I'm thinking all these things. I'm not normally, like, you might even feel things like anger, and be like, I don't understand why I'm feeling all this anger about this or that person or subject. I didn't even know them. That doesn't make any sense. You're picking up on the other humans that are still alive and the things that they've thought and felt about them. That's what you're feeling. And that often comes with mediumship because as you pick up on the soul or the spirit of the person, you kind of, especially in the beginning, if you don't know any better, you're going to wade through the human parts. Okay. Now, again, you might pick up on memories too that spirit has from that lifetime, and you might be seeing those and feeling things that they did feel, but they don't feel them anymore. Okay. But they might show you some of those things. So you might feel moments when they went through grief, or you might feel moments or see moments when they were overwhelmed with joy, like maybe they're holding their firstborn for the first time, so I've totally felt overwhelmed with pride or joy when I've done a reading and seen a dad like talking about his daughter being his happy thought and he's holding her for the first time. I just went, oh my God, like it always makes me cry because they're so proud and they're so happy still. But it was like I could feel what he had felt in that moment. And that's what he was showing me. It's not that he's angry, he's not mad, he's not sad, he's not ashamed. He just wanted me to understand what some of his memories were. And for a lot of people who are new to mediumship or don't know that they're mediums, they'll experience these types of emotions and they won't know that that's what's going on. So that's a big piece too. Now, the other signs that you're a medium that you may not know about are you may be drawn toward things that have to do with mediumship in the afterlife, in spirit and ghosts and all that type of stuff throughout the course of your life and not know why. Or you might go through a period of time where you're really intensely focused on it, very focused on it, and not know why you're so focused on it all of a sudden. That certainly happened to me. Throughout the course of my life, I was always very curious about, and I loved ghost stories and stuff like that, but it was all like the spooky, scary stuff. I loved Are You Afraid of the Dark when I was growing up. I loved the show Medium when I was younger. It came out in the early 2000s, and it's based on a real life medium who solves cases or did solve cases for the Phoenix Police Department and the district attorney there. Her name's Alison Dubois. And so I was obsessed with that show, but I didn't know I was a medium during any of these time periods. Didn't know. My guides were trying so hard to tell me. Like they were trying so hard. I loved Fear Street. I loved Goosebumps books. I loved Halloween. It was my favorite holiday. I was all about being a ghost. It was written on the wall, neon pink, and I was still just missing it. But the signs were all there. And then, I can tell you story after story after story. I even watched stuff about intuitives and psychics, but they were more like shows and books and stuff. And I thought, man, that's so cool. One of my favorite books from when I was younger was about, it was about a haunted dollhouse where this girl, I don't want to spoil the whole story, but she wakes up and she keeps seeing this stuff playing out in a haunted dollhouse in her home. And at first she doesn't understand what's going on, if it's like possessed or what's happening. And she thinks she's nuts, but she realizes that she's actually seeing, I'm getting chills. Oh my God. She actually realizes that she's seeing, this spirit is trying to use the dollhouse and the figures in the dollhouse to show her, what happened in the house and that there was an actual murder, and they're trying to use this haunted dollhouse to play out the scene to show her what happened. I mean, I ate shit like that for breakfast. The signs were everywhere. I remember coming across all sorts of things that were about like psychics and mediums and like all that type of stuff. And I still didn't get it. I mean, it took them until I was like in my late 20s, early 30s, like to really, really get all this across. And so when I went through my reawakening, which was like over 10 years ago now, I very literally was having increased intuitions, and you can listen to there's a whole episode about my spiritual awakening. But one of the big things was that I was really suddenly drawn toward books and anything about the afterlife. And so I started watching like certain things on YouTube, like Channeling Eric. The very first thing I was drawn to though was Tyler Henry. His book, I think it's called like In Between Two Worlds or something like that, or In Between Worlds. It's got a blue cover on it, but it came out a while back. I found it in a Barnes and Noble, and I was like, I don't know why, but this is for me. I just knew it in my bones. And I was out and like supposed to be shopping for other people's gifts at the time, which I still did. But I mean, I saw that book and it like just jumped out at me, and I just grabbed it and I read through it in 3 days. And as I was reading through it, it was like I was remembering, oh yeah, I can do all this. And it was his whole book about his mediumship journey and all the things he learned. And one of the things he learned about connecting with the human and the person in front of you and their feelings and the memories around the spirit versus who the spirit actually is in spirit, unencumbered and free and full of love. He learned that and wrote that in that book. And it was vital in my experience during my awakening to have that in there. And then I also came across like Laura Lynn Jackson's book really shortly after that. Like that book followed me places. I tried not to read it. And then The Light Between Us. And finally I was like, okay, yeah, that's it. We got to do this. So I read it, and I read that one again, and like Tyler Henry's and Laura Lynn Jackson's like took me maybe like 3 days tops to finish each of them. And so that's how I knew, like, I just went, yeah, something's going on here with me. There's something happening. And my reawakening was very quick. For those of you guys who didn't hear that story, you can go listen to that podcast episode. But that all the signs were all there. And suddenly I was like, you couldn't keep me away from stuff about the afterlife. And the more that I learned it was like, it only took like me watching like 1 or 2 of these like Channeling Eric videos and like reading 1 or 2 of these books. And I was starting to channel right away. Like right away, I was getting dreams. I was getting messages from the other side. I was seeing things, and the books were almost like helping to soothe me. From what I understand, and what I understand is that Laura Lynn Jackson's book really helped create a really good foundation going into my mediumship, because this was right at the beginning of it. And for me, it was like I went to sleep one night and I woke up the next day knowing I was a medium and having experiences, and like full blown open door. And so these books really helped to ground me in. It was like they gave me the right information at the right time, right as everything was opening. But that was like a big sign of like, here we go, we're ramping up. And so that's not an uncommon thing to see for people who are mediums, is that they start to get really drawn towards things. They start to want readings. They start to want to take courses, and they want to learn more, and they want to absorb material about the other side. You may even play with like the folklore aspects of it, like I did, where, you know, like I said, like all the scary, spooky stories type of stuff that's not really as true, or has like it's not like the ghosts or the spirits doing that, but I played with like, you know, what does the culture think of this type of stuff? Because that's the access I had to it. And my guides were trying to give me signs and intuitions like, hey, like, you're a medium. And then they even put NDE stuff in front of me. Like, I was like, oh man, I remember reading some of this stuff when I was younger. And it was like I had forgotten about it or blocked it out. And so that's another big thing that happens, is you start to get drawn into that type of stuff and curious about it. So if you're curious, I do have my Patreon group. I do have the Art of Clear Channeling course. And then we have some really good masterclasses happening and really fun stuff, again, in the Patreon that can help you if you are like, I'm pretty sure I'm a medium. I need some support. I want to learn. I have some good classes coming up to help you guys with channeling. So I am curious, do you want another part on this? Maybe I'll do a part 2 on this episode. what were your signs for those of you guys who realized you were mediums? What was happening for you? I should mention too, a lot of people, they don't realize that they're having spirit connection because they don't know who they're connecting to right away. But they might have dreams where messages come through. And it's almost like they get like visitations and they'll have people popping into their dreams that they don't know. That can be a visitation. It feels like a visitation and it's going to feel very loving or very clear. But almost like where did that come from? But it's not scary. So it's another big one that can happen. I will come back and maybe I'll do a part 2 on this or break this into a couple fun episodes. But I'm curious what you guys experienced when you started to realize you were a medium. Did it rattle you to your bones? Did you go through the fear phase like we all do? I definitely went through it. Did you deal with it okay? What helped you the most? Feel free to share in the Patreon group. I do have a free group and then I have a couple of paid groups, but we've got lots of space to discuss and talk about all these things in there. So feel free to come and share with us in there. I'll link it up in the show notes. And thank you guys all so much for listening to this episode. Bye.